This is the first example we have covered of an effective playoff 12 being ran in open play. The reason why you rarely see such prescribed moves being ran, let alone actually pulled off in open play, is because in the eyes of the defense, they are usually organized. But in the eyes of your attack, they, the defense, are usually somewhat disorganized. Let me explain. When you attack off first phase, the reason why it's such a great scoring opportunity is because not only do you have the exact same amount of attackers attacking, the exact same numbers of defenders defending, but you also know exactly where those defenders are going to be positioned. This allows you to prepare a move with the knowledge of what you are coming up against. The defense may be organized, but you, the attacking team, will also know exactly how it will be organized, giving you, the team with the ball, the advantageous position to be proactive and manipulate the defense in whichever way you may choose. You in attack hold all the power because you have the ball. Wherever the ball goes, the threat is. Therefore, you can manipulate the defense more so than they can manipulate you. On the other hand, as the phases tick by, the defense becomes exponentially unpredictable. As defenders make tackles, join rucks, fold into different spaces, etc., making a chaotic mess of unpredictability that you cannot realistically prepare for exactly. In the eyes of the defense, they are still somewhat organized, but in the eyes of the attack, the defense looks disorganized in comparison to what it initially looked like off the first phase. For some much more technical terminology and theory, in the field of science, this is also known as chaos theory and is heavily linked to the butterfly effect. Yes, you can orchestrate a move maybe over 2 or 3 phases, as we often see England do under Eddie Jones, as I'll be covering in another video series on multi-phase strike moves. But Bristol are on their 9th phase here, so in tune with chaos theory, it would be realistically impossible for them to have manipulated and maneuvered the defence into the exact prescribed manner that they are set up in now by prediction and choice. It may have happened by chaos theory, but it is unlikely that they have orchestrated this exactly through calculated precise moves. There's just too much unpredictability. That is why you so rarely see such prescribed moves being ran in open play, as opposed to off first phase. And on a side note, why attacking shape, systems and strategy become increasingly important, as again I'll be getting back into in another series on attacking systems when we get back into chaos theory in a lot more detail. However, all of that being said about chaos theory and unpredictability over the course of increasing phases, if you look closely, you'll see that almost the exact same first phase defensive setup and opportunity is actually present here, just as we would be off first phase. Whether this exact position has been orchestrated by Pat Lam and the Bristol attack through calculated decision-making and precise movements, or just simply and more likely by chance, and the recognition of the correct number of defenders and the alignment of those defenders present in the defence, Bristol are now in the prime position to launch a strike move, perhaps the most prime of a position that you'll ever see in open play, as it is the closest thing you'll ever get to that first phase defensive setup. In the same way that they would be off first phase. The reason being, like we said, that strike moves are most effective off first phase because the attack have the exact same ratio of attackers to defenders, and more importantly, the attack also knows exactly where those defenders are positioned, making the defense predictable and therefore preparable for. So whether it be because Bristol have manufactured this opportunity, or they have simply just recognised it, or they have even more simply just run out of forward carriers to come around the corner, They select their play from the playbook and they strike. Eden genuinely looks like a threat to the line by looking as if he's going to receive the pass at first receiver because of his initial positioning and the added deception of having his hands up, which ties in Ludlow, who is stood as the defensive 10, preventing Ludlow from sliding onto the actual first receiver, Piutau, at 12, and thus preventing Saints from initiating the domino drift defence, ensuring the effectiveness of this move right from the off. Piutau then receives the ball wide enough from the breakdown to further remove any possibility of Ludlow initiating the drift, and in combination with Northampton being on the back foot of the breakdown, not a further 5 metres back like they would be off a scrum, allows him to take the ball to the line incredibly well and thus effectively target, engage and sit down Grayson, who is the defensive 12 in this example. This then leads to the effective isolating, overloading and splitting of Piers Francis, who is defending as the 13 in this situation. From the incredibly effective overs line of Piers O'Connor, again demonstrating the importance of an effective unders and overs shape, this creates the space for Eden to burn the corner on the unders line, getting on the outside of the pillar of Francis, which in turn creates the 2-on-1 between Eden and Purdy running the shoulder ball, and Matt Proctor, the open side defensive winger. Eden takes the ball to the line just enough to tie in Proctor and create the space for Purdy on the outside to complete the 2-on-1.
Now Purdy running forward and doing what he can do in attack. He redeems himself. Bristol redeem themselves. They're on the board for the first time.
Well, that was a magnificent execution of that play, because there's nothing wrong with Northampton's defence there. They're on their 5 metre line. You can see the initial play, Andy Uren coming really late as an option, trying to catch the tail gunners, all drifting off onto the initial peeling players. But here, everything done, point at the line. There's nothing that Proctor can do to get back out, having had to stay tight for the initial options. And it was all just about perfect execution of that passing that we were talking about. Purdy runs onto it, and he's going against a guy that's having to step in, who's never going to be able to recover.
It's brilliant attack. I think sometimes you can give defence a bit of a hard time, but often there are times where you look under the sticks and you think, could we have done a bit better? Yeah, potentially, but let's focus on that attack. That was brilliant handling under pressure, fantastic execution.